everyone, we are out here at our property inspection out in La Palma. In just a moment, I'm going to come up to our inspector. He is my regular teammate, love him. I'm going to ask him a few questions in regards to not only this home inspection, but get some really good information for all of us new realtors out here as far as what to look for when we are walking through properties with a client during showing time. So let's check it out.
So a few things with the water heater here, one of the main components here of the property. A few things in the garage here. Now the water heater is in the garage, and so typically down here you'll see where there's usually a catch pan or a smitty pan, and they usually have a drain extension off of there that goes to the exterior. Well, this one obviously doesn't have one. We'd like to see a pan with a drain and have that drain routed to the exterior so that it doesn't cause any flooding in the interior of the garage. This water heater also has some corrosion on the connection up there, as you can see, behind the valve. We'd like to obviously see that replaced. That could lead to further leaking of water and whatnot.
Okay.
Everything else with this particular water heater, it's strapped properly. This here is really important. This is your TPR valve. That extension is going outside, which is correct. We either like to see it route to the exterior or have it come down the side of the water heater at about 6 inches above the ground. But this is sufficient here. So the main components of the property, such as roof, your attic, the appliances, such as like water heater, washer and dryer. Sometimes we don't know if they are staying or not. But your HVAC system, which is your heating and air systems, those are some of your main components. Then of course your kitchen area, which you have your oven, range, stove. You have of course your sink. Those are all the main components that we look for. Then of course your electrical and overall plumbing. So we want to make sure with the electrical we have things such as GFCI protection throughout the property, anywhere within 6 feet of water or an appliance. The rule of thumb is to have a GFCI protection with your outlet. And then as for your range, oven range in the kitchen, we usually like to see that it has a anti-tip brackets on the ground where you can't pull it to where it falls on you.
Right, for like young children especially.
Right, exactly. And then things such as in the property for safety concerns, we like to make sure that the railing doesn't have more than a 4-inch gap in it so a small child can't stick their head through it. We want to make sure that all the receptacles have plates. There's no exposed electrical anywhere where somebody can stick their finger in and get hurt. Main components of the property will always deal with safety first. Health and safety concerns for the clients is our most important thing we look for. Things such as smoke detectors. Want to make sure the property has a smoke detector and carbon monoxide. Those are some more things to look out for. So this here is your oven / range. Okay. This is what I was talking about in regards to the anti-tip brackets. You can't see the brackets, but they're mounted on the ground and underneath the range itself.
Okay.
And so
do you typically pull the oven range out to check?
Yeah. So how I test it is I just carefully pull, make sure I don't break the top here. I pull it to see if it can come towards me, and if it can come towards me about 6 inches, I know the brackets are not there.
Okay.
So, and this
obviously we don't recommend that a realtor pulls the
right, exactly. You obviously don't want to break it, and then of course this is what can happen. So a small child or somebody else can open this up and they can accidentally sit or stand on this.
Right.
And if they do, the
whole thing will go forward.
The whole thing can come forward. Then of course in an earthquake it can also jump out. And so this is a safety concern. We just don't want anybody to get hurt.
Okay. So is this a recommendation, of course, that we would put in our request for repairs?
Yes, this is a recommendation I would request because it is health and safety related. It generally costs about maybe $10 or $15 for the bracket itself, like at a Home Depot or any kind of store like that.
Okay.
So in the kitchen here, the receptacles here. Here's one here. There's one over there. There's one back over here, and then another one over here. So it doesn't indicate to me that these are GFCI protected. We usually...
How would you be able to tell that?
Yeah, so usually they'll have either a reset and a test button on the actual receptacle itself, or if they're called what's called downstream of the main GFCI receptacles, they'll have a little sticker on it. It'll say GFCI protected.
Okay, so like when I blow out the fuse when I'm blow drying my hair and the hair dryer stops working,
right?
I gotta push.
You gotta push. You gotta reset the right because you've overloaded the circuit.
Okay, gotcha. Such a cute kitchen though. I love this kitchen. Okay, and then you were saying smoke detectors. What is the rule of thumb for smoke detectors and carbon monoxides in a home?
Well, you're supposed to have them, of course, when you sell a property. You're supposed to have them in the areas of living, such as your kitchen and/or bedrooms, hallways, things of that nature. We do have one here downstairs. There's in this particular property, there are no smoke detectors upstairs, either in the hallway or in the bedrooms.
Okay, so we will need to request that we put those in the bedrooms and in the hallway.
Right.
Okay.
And then another safety feature, which I mentioned before, so the gap between the railing here.
Yes.
This should not be more than 4 inches. This here is about 5 or so, closer to 5 or 6. So small child or small adult, if they're not careful.
An animal.
Animal can stick their head and get it stuck. I've seen this happen before.
Oh,
it's no fun, and it's a legitimate safety concern.
So is that something that a seller should typically repair or take care of before they look to sell the property? Is it a like code violation of any sort? Like,
well,
what's the thoughts?
Right. So because the code came out after most likely this property was built. They typically don't repair it or replace it, just because of that. Some people say they like to see that it was grandfathered in, but we don't really care about grandfathering in anything if it's a health or safety concern.
Okay.
We want to make sure it gets addressed. Now, most likely nobody will stick their head in here, but it's still something we have to call out in an inspection, because it is our number one rule of thumb is to make sure that we're protecting our clients for health and safety concerns. So this is something I would be concerned about as a realtor, to tell the other parties, hey, look, this is a legitimate safety concern.
Okay. And these are all things that we can definitely see when we're just viewing a property with our clients. We can see that there's no smoke detectors, that there's no carbon monoxide, that the railings may have an issue because they're too large.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to be a home inspector to notice these things. So as being a real estate agent and a home inspector, these are things I look out, of course, for right away. But you as just a realtor, these are things you can walk in and maybe when you're doing your AVID, your agent visual inspection, these are things you can point out as well, and even during your initial showing.
Awesome. Okay. Any other informational tips or tricks that we should be aware of, or even specific to this property that I should be looking at today?
Well, we like to see, so with any property, we like to see for their HVAC, your air conditioning and heating. So as for the air conditioning, so we like to see that the air being forced out of the registers versus what's being pulled in through the returns is about a 14 to 18 degree difference. This house is sufficient. It does have that. We let it run for a little while, and then we go ahead and I check the air temperature coming out of all the registers in the property, and then the returns as well. So it's about a 14 to 18 degree difference is what we like to see.
Random question. I was just thinking, is there ever anything that we can look at as a realtor when we open up a closet and find the heating?
Right. So just without taking things apart or anything in that nature, you just want to make sure that everything's connected properly. That there's no scorch marks anywhere. And then another important thing, that you don't want to see any rust stains of any kind, because that means that there's some kind of condensation buildup somewhere, and then that would be a concern. So this unit overall was okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today on this property. But next time I would love to go through a home inspection with you and actually be here for the time. And then you can kind of let me know what you found and go through the whole property as a whole. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.